I wanted to talk a little bit about the Internet of Things, but first I wanted to thank all of you for attending, listening to a boring guy like me on a wonderful day like this. I have no idea why you do that, but okay. It's a story for another time, number one. Number two, I want to thank CASPA. Broadcom has had a long partnership with CASPA. We were the first crown sponsor. I just learned there on Yuping's slides that now TSMC has joined us as a crown sponsor, so I'm not sure I'm very happy with TSMC for that, taking our spotlight. So, rumor has it we're a big customer of TSMC, so I might have a word or two to say to these guys after the presentation, I'm not sure. But I want to thank CASPA for something that's actually, even more important, and that is CASPA has made me relevant to my teenage son. Okay, let me explain how. So every year before this event, there's a kind of a press conference deal, and my son, he's got a lot of friends, Chinese-speaking friends, and as part of this press conference, there's a news feed. It goes out to one of the local Chinese-speaking news stations, and apparently, some people saw this and then came to my son and said, "Oh, we saw your dad on TV." Okay, so my son came home and said, "Dad, you're a star, you're on TV." So he's very excited about that. That was the only thing that I've ever done in my entire life that actually made an impact on him. I was on TV. He was very excited. So I want to thank Casper for that. That was very good. Okay, with all of that said, I'm going to go into a little bit of a talk here. We've got our wonderful disclaimer statement. A little bit about Broadcom. I don't know if it's coming up very well on the screen there. Broadcom has something in common with CASPA. Both groups were founded in 1991, so roughly the same age. That's a good thing. Broadcom, as you know, or many of you know, is one of the largest fabless semiconductor companies in the world. We're actually, you're gonna fix it for me, Avery? Okay, very, very important. Okay, he's got it. He's going to work on this thing. We've got design centers throughout the world. We're, from a revenue perspective, we're in the top 5 largest revenue-producing semiconductor companies in the world. And then, this is a very interesting stat. It's not coming up very well on the screen, but 99.98% of all internet traffic crosses a Broadcom chip. One of the great mysteries of the world is where's the other 0.02%? I have no idea. Somewhere. I keep looking for it. I'm not sure where it is. But if you look at what we've done, we've built a massive portfolio of infrastructure. Right? Our semiconductors are in a lot of the infrastructure, wireless base stations, core, backhaul, and then in a lot of the consumer devices that people use. We have a lot of presence, for example, in smartphones with Wi-Fi chips, Bluetooth chips, all kinds of wireless connectivity, in PCs. But in the end, I don't know who did this calculation. I think somebody in our marketing department did this wonderful calculation. 99.98% of all internet traffic at some point in its journey from end to end crosses a Broadcom chip, so pretty impressive. As I get going here, I wanted to kind of frame a little bit of backdrop. Data is ubiquitous, we all know that. Data is becoming like the dark matter of the universe, right? It's everywhere. We're just learning how to tap into it, and if you think about data now, everything has data. A toaster has some data. When does it pop up the toast? When does it pop up a bagel? Car obviously has data. PCs have data. Everything has data. And understanding that backdrop and how ultimately that data can be mined for useful purposes is very, very important to what I'm going to talk about in the context of this so-called Internet of Things. Okay? So what is the Internet of Things? It's been a term that gets thrown out a lot, very complicated term, but essentially what it is the combination of humans, the internet, and machines. And I'm not sure where humans rank in all that. Hopefully humans are number 1, but I'm not sure. But it's how these 3 bodies really converge and start interacting. And I think that the Internet of Things obviously is a huge growth market. We're going to give some statistics on it later. But it's a huge opportunity for all of us that are in the semiconductor industry. How did we get here? How did we get to this so-called Internet of Things? If you look at the chart, the Industrial Revolution was a couple hundred years ago in 1760. The technological revolution about 100 years later in 1860. The computer revolution took place in the 1970s, and then the internet revolution in the 1980s. And if we think about all of these elements together, the internet, computers, technology, all of those things combined really are what the Internet of Things is all about. So this Internet of Things revolution is really starting now and is an opportunity, huge opportunity for all of us as we look forward. What exactly is a thing? What is a thing? Well, a thing, from my definition, everybody has different definitions about what is a thing. It's kind of a strange word, a thing. But it's got a microprocessor, and it's got some kind of sensor in it, some way of communicating data, as we talked about a minute ago, back to the internet and back to other things. So that's really the core definition of what a thing is as it pertains to the definition of the Internet of Things. Now, the Internet of Things has been around for quite some time. Turns out that the first internet-connected toaster actually appeared at Network Interop in 1990. And by my calculations, I don't know if Yuping is here. I think Yuping was about 6 when that happened. So, you know, just a little bit after Yuping was born was the first internet-enabled toaster about 25 years ago. And from there, it's obviously exploded, but it's been something that's been with us for quite some time. And what are the key attributes of the Internet of Things? What are the key things? You can see on this chart, one of the key points is getting at this data, being able to take advantage of data that's being mined from an internet device, pushed back across the internet to another series of devices, being able to use that data. And companies are now trying to figure out entire business models on how to take advantage of that data. It's very, very important. Our company, I'm sure your companies, everybody's trying to figure out now that data that's generated, can we use it? How can we build business models around it? Very, very important concept. But you can see this concept of being connected and interconnected, this whole web of connections, very important, and performing a wide range of specialized tasks. So all of these really are key attributes when we think about the Internet of Things. Some interesting statistics on IoT. 80% of all consumers will do something to track personal data in a few years. In 2017, I think this information came from Gartner, so I owe somebody a royalty. I don't know where Sam is. I owe a royalty on Gartner statistic. 150 million wearable devices would ship worldwide in a single year by 2017, and 5% of global sales of the top 1,000 companies will be driven by data collected from consumers in 2020. So this bottom statistic is really the key one that I'm talking about, where data is coming in some fashion, and companies are figuring out how to use that to drive cost savings for the consumer, convenience, some information about healthcare. All of those kinds of things are uses of the data that companies will ultimately take advantage of to build these business models around. We historically, in the semiconductor industry, have thought of mobile as the key opportunity. And today, mobile certainly drives a lot of our businesses in the semiconductor industry. 5.6 billion devices are sold each year. So it's a massive, massive opportunity for semiconductors. But that opportunity is dwarfed, considerably dwarfed, by the Internet of Things. This statistic, 30 billion devices, is one of the smaller ones that you can pull from the data. Cisco has said that number is 50 billion, excuse me. And other research organizations have said numbers like 100 billion. So it's a huge, huge number, and a number that ultimately dwarfs the number one opportunity today in the semiconductor business, which is the cellular or smartphone opportunity. So it is a big, big thing, and that's why a lot of us are very, very focused on tailoring technologies to the Internet of Things. So why all the hype? Why is there all this conversation around the Internet of Things? It's a very unusual paradigm. First of all, there's this huge number of devices. We gave the statistics in the previous slide. There are a lot of different players. It's a very, very fragmented market from both a device perspective and from a semiconductor perspective. We at Broadcom, who compete or cooperate with almost every other semiconductor company, are finding all kinds of different players competing with us as we go after this Internet of Things opportunity. So a very significant fracturing and fragmenting of the market. There's no monopoly. No single player owns this from a system side, from a consumer devices side. No single player has a monopoly on this market, which opens it up to everybody to compete on a relatively equal footing. And obviously there's a low barrier to entry. The barrier to entry in IoT is something far lower than perhaps other markets like smartphones, where there's a huge, huge installed base and walled garden building up around software ecosystems and things like that. So this is a great opportunity for innovation, and one I think all of us in the room can participate in, as I say, in relatively equal footing. Okay, so there's limitless possibility, right? The market is touching all kinds of different subsegments. Industrial is a market that semiconductors have focused on, but more of a niche market. That market, I think, opens up considerably for data mining and collecting information, for example, on farming, on crops, on production lines in various manufacturing floors. Huge opportunity in industrial for IoT. In medical is a massive opportunity because your personal data, your data that is tracking how you are living, how you're operating on a day-to-day basis, having that available to medical professionals is incredibly valuable, incredibly valuable. And that opportunity to translate medical information, your personal medical information, back to cost savings, back to life-saving types of applications is there, is readily available under this whole concept of the Internet of Things. And of course, consumer electronics. More and more connectivity is coming into consumer electronics, and you're seeing toys, you're seeing, of course, phones, as we know, PCs, TVs, almost any consumer electronic you can think of now has some mechanism to connect back to the Internet. It's an important part. If you think about, again, an example is my son, how he uses his little Xbox. You know, the Xbox for him is not so much a game-playing device, but he spends more time talking to his friends who are on the other side of the globe. Then, of course, he spends a lot more time doing that than his homework, but that's another story. But he spends more time doing that than actual gameplay. So the internet connection that that device brings is more important to him than is the game playing itself. So that connectivity is the key part of the experience. So from a perspective now of a semiconductor provider, and our spin, a Broadcom spin on the Internet of Things, really has to do with connectivity. And as I said at the beginning, one of Broadcom's key businesses is wireless connectivity. We're involved in NFC, in Bluetooth, in wireless LAN, in GPS, almost any kind of wireless technology that goes around the periphery of a smartphone. Broadcom makes, manufactures, we try to drive the technology forward. So a lot of what you'll hear in this next section is how does wireless connectivity ultimately play in the Internet of Things? One thing that we think about is, okay, what's going to drive this whole industry forward? How do we make wireless technologies work in the Internet of Things. It's one thing to have wireless technology work in a PC where you have a huge microprocessor, the Microsoft software, all the ecosystem that goes around it, very easy to get things to work. But when you start talking about connecting garage door openers, when you start talking about connecting weight scales, even these toasters, these coffee pots, the interoperability is a very, very key piece. How do we make these things easily interoperate with each other? So part of that problem is creating standards, or part of the solution is creating standards and certification bodies around the connected device. How do you get something to connect, easily get onto the internet? Again, it's one thing to be able to go type in a password and connect a PC or a smartphone to the internet. It's entirely another when there's no keyboard available. How do I get my garage door opener to connect to the internet? No easy challenge. So the solution here is really getting the hardware and the software to seamlessly integrate. We're thinking about, as an industry, how do we get the software, the top-level software, to connect back and create the right set of APIs such that it's easy to access the internet, easy to get on and off. Concept to product. This is, again, another key item. How can we make, from a connectivity perspective, something that's easy to use? When we're out marketing wireless connectivity to a toy manufacturer, their main business is toys. They know toys. They know how to go market toys. How they go and incorporate a wireless technology into the toy is something completely foreign to a toy maker. And so we have to make this product, our products, much easier to use than we historically have. What we can do today is deploy an army of engineers to a company that understands basic internet technology. We don't have that luxury when we're talking about the Internet of Things and some of these periphery applications. So we have to make the time to market very, very short. And so we've invented a set of systems that I'll talk about in one of the last slides to make our products very easy to use, very turnkey, to reduce the time to market. And finally, I know a lot of my speakers after me are going to be talking about security. Security is also very key. And how we secure the device, the network, and even the data that resides in the device and the network, those are very key challenges. And to kind of touch on that, for one subsequent slide here, the end-to-end security story is very key. Number one, I want to make sure that my device itself is tamper-proof. Right? There's been a lot of discussions with the NSA in the US being able to go drive into a device and get data out. And I don't know about you, but that's definitely concerning to me. So how to make this device as tamper-proof as possible is very important, number one. Number two, authentication. How do I get on and off the network and prove that it's me is very important, right? We're going from a world where there's a lot of passwords. Okay, that's a concern. Now we're going to fingerprinting. Maybe that's a concern. How do I get my device on and off the network and assure that it's my device and my access that gets enabled when I log on? And then the third aspect is really the data itself. If a network gets hacked into, if a device gets hacked into, how can we make sure that that key fundamental data, that if we start talking about medical, we start talking about some of these healthcare applications, I don't think anybody wants that kind of sensitive information available to computer hackers. That's not something that's a good thing. So how to control that and how to build security on that specific data is another huge challenge for the semiconductor industry. Again, we're all working on that problem, building solutions like secure elements that have a very, very high degree of security over and above the security of the device or the security of the network, a second level, if you will. Okay, so now talking specifically about the different devices, different kinds of wireless technology. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, we're hopefully all familiar with those things. I was reading one of the presidential candidates, somebody who's a Democratic nominee or a Democratic possible contender running against Hillary Clinton, called Wi-Fi a basic human right. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I kind of like it coming from Wi-Fi. Okay, now that's a basic human right, like, you know, air or something else, I'm not sure. But it was a very interesting comment. Wi-Fi is becoming almost ubiquitous. Every device that people are manufacturing, they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I incorporate Wi-Fi into it? How do I include wireless LAN technology and seamlessly be able to get my device onto the network? Bluetooth, because of its power attributes, is also becoming increasingly useful in the Internet of Things. We see connected lighting, where you have a light bulb that might have a sensor in it. Those are powered off of batteries. It says in the center of those concentric circles there on the Bluetooth chart. Those kinds of applications now are very power sensitive, and Bluetooth is ideal for that, for the way it wakes up and turns off, and its duty cycle and power usage are such that its power life can extend and be useful under a watch-type battery and extend multiple years with that kind of battery. So Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are very much the workhorses of the Internet of Things. If we look, forward, how do we combine some of these technologies in the Internet of Things? One big challenge we have is ubiquitous location. People are thinking of end applications like couponing. Businesses are coming up with all kinds of business cases that take advantage of where you are at that particular instant. And of course, where you are is very easy if you're outside. Right? The GPS technology has evolved to a point where it can pinpoint you with pretty precise accuracy no matter where you are on the planet. But a problem starts occurring when I come indoors into a place like this. GPS does not work when you're indoors. Turns out that a lot of the merchants and a lot of the economic opportunity occurs indoors, in shopping malls, train stations, places of business. All these kinds of things are indoors. How do I get location to work indoors? Well, it turns out now you can use other wireless technologies. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, even NFC can be used very seamlessly to create location when I'm indoors. We can now pinpoint with almost the same precision as GPS somebody's location using Wi-Fi and Bluetooth beaconing, which I'll talk about in this next slide. And that is, what is the opportunity? So a huge, huge opportunity exists to be able to locate where I am in a shopping mall. This is a chart, I don't know which, maybe Santana, not Santana Row, it's Nordstrom. I don't know where we have a Home Depot next to a Nordstrom, but okay, that's the Nordstrom. Graphics guys took some liberties there. But, okay, so in this particular opportunity, what happens now is I'm walking around, I can get information about what's in each of these stores by virtue of the beaconing that tells me where my location is. And that's good for me, because I might get some coupons and things like that. But it's also good for the merchants. The merchants know I'm there. They might be able to get something about my buying habits, and they can spin up something that's very relevant to me as a consumer as I'm walking by the store. So this is a huge opportunity for economic benefit for us as consumers and for the merchants as well. Big, big opportunity. Well, we've got lots of free things. That's good. All right, a lot of animations. Okay, so next technology. This is an emerging technology. I think somebody had asked me about this at this press conference over lunch. Wireless charging is something that's becoming increasingly important. Wireless charging today, if you think about the number of connectors that are involved, yesterday I took a day trip to hike up Half Dome. Okay, I don't know if anybody's walked up this Half Dome. It's kind of a crazy deal. But I noticed a couple of things about my trip. It was a one-day trip. I had to pack like 3 different chargers in my backpack to kind of keep everything charged. So that was kind of an interesting thing. The other thing that I noticed, that even on the top of Half Dome, everybody was on their cell phone. So you're supposed to get away from it all and, you know, half dome, but everyone was like taking these selfies and then mailing them to everybody. I don't know what was going on, but it's kind of an interesting thing. I was able to get cell signal, and even I was participating, sending pictures to my wife. She's like, "What are you doing? You're an idiot." But wireless charging is becoming a huge technology. Somebody had asked, you know, what about things like power harvesting? Is that going to become prevalent? Yes, the answer is yes. I think wireless charging is just the beginning. It takes away the need to have all of these connectors, and you can put your device on a tabletop and it'll start charging. I can now not bring 5 different chargers on a night trip to Yosemite. I can bring, you know, just my device itself and go set it on a table. But that evolved from wireless charging to things like power harvesting, electromechanical harvesting, things like that, that will make this an even more interesting and prevalent technology. Okay, finally getting into NFC. So near-field communication is another new technology that's getting renewed attention. It's been around for a while. Samsung had done a lot with it leading up to the Olympics. If you remember, there was a commercial that they did with a torch passing from phone to phone and then ultimately being flung up to a big screen TV somewhere in New York City in Times Square. That technology was all NFC. But NFC had pretty much faded to the background, but now there's a lot of interest around it because Apple has been talking about it in the context of this Apple Pay. NFC is a technology that's already in a lot of smartphones. It's already there. And now the use cases are becoming a lot more varied than just mobile banking. And you can see here, you have different applications. Some for the home, right? Being able to go and take the technology and using as a security mechanism, opening locks, opening safes, managing thermostats, managing washing machines, refrigerators, white goods, being able to stream, put my phone up to a TV, just like the example in the Samsung commercial, put my phone up to a TV and then start streaming content. The initial authentication and security is done by NFC. In the middle, you can say, I guess, again, my graphics department must really like wine because they got a lot of pictures of wine. I'm not sure what that's all about, but you can have, in the wine example, you can get information about wine by putting your phone up to like a smart tag on the wine, a little label that's advertising a particular type of wine. Okay, how many points is it? Who likes it? Who doesn't like it? You can get information, advertising information back. And then once you're in home, or people are thinking about security mechanisms now. If somebody tries to walk off with the wine, the merchants want to protect that, particularly high-value wine, so they can authenticate and protect and secure the wine from leaving the store. So again, all kinds of different use cases around NFC. And perhaps the most interesting is in medical. Again, to identify who's the user, how am I to know that I'm the person who's supposed to be taking advantage or using a certain medicine. Verification, have I taken the medicine today? Particularly folks that have older parents that are wondering, okay, did that medicine get used on a particular day? I can find that information out and authorize. How do I know that it's me? How do I know that it's my medicine that's coming in my direction? All of these are key new use cases for NFC, for near-field communications. Very, very interesting kind of thing. And here's one very simple example. I spend a lot of time in hotels. You can actually go in, book a room online. You can come into the hotel using Wi-Fi to check in, just a quick check-in on Wi-Fi. And then using NFC, a key, a room key, I can go to room 1007 or what have you, and via NFC, a key is given to me, is passed to my smartphone, and then as I approach the hotel room door, now using the proximity of NFC, I can unlock the door. Okay, so now there's very simple. I walk into the hotel, quickly get my room key, quickly check in, and then walk right in. So I don't have to wait in these endless lines. I don't know if any of you have had this experience where you're getting off a bus in some foreign country or something like that, and you're like 12th in line in the hotel, and then somebody's like arguing for 15 minutes about the hotel room, holding up the entire line. I've been in that situation way too many times. Okay, I don't like standing in line. This is a great way to get around that. Okay, and so what, again, from an overall perspective, when we go back to the Internet of Things, there's tremendous advantage. It's very easy for all of us to compete. It's a very fractured market as a result, with the ability to prototype and test an idea, with the ability to get funding. Seems to be a lot of money is flowing into this market, and the opportunity to quickly complete and go to market with a platform. So being able to do these things quickly is a key challenge for businesses and is a key challenge for the semiconductor industry. We're all trying to make sure that we can do that rather seamlessly. And so what it does is creates huge amount of opportunity, tremendous opportunity. It's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for device manufacturers, a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for semiconductor makers. So big opportunity. And one thing that Broadcom is trying to do, as I mentioned earlier, is really make this as simple and easy to use as possible. We're coming out with a set of products that introduce these various connectivity devices, whether it be Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC. We try to make it as easy to use as possible. So our customers, which is now becoming this wide and very fragmented customer base, can easily use our wireless technology and integrate them into these various end devices. We just came out with something called Wicked Sense, which has a little microprocessor, Bluetooth, wireless LAN, and then a set of sensors, environmental sensors, temperature sensor, a little altimeter, all kinds of things. It's 5 different MEMS sensors that we create as a turnkey design for people then to go and incorporate in their end product, making this as very easy to use as possible. So it operates under iOS, it operates under Android, all the software is done, so it's an easy turnkey end product that somebody can end up and use. So in the end, these low barriers inspire innovation. A lot of interesting things that are going on in this market. We think it's just the beginning. All kinds of different end applications that I talked about during the talk. My favorite one actually is this tennis one. I play a lot of tennis. I'm not very good at tennis, but I play a lot. I spend a lot of time running after the ball. They actually have a device now that you can put in, this Wicked Sense that I talked about in the previous chart. Somebody's come up with a way to put it into the tennis racket, and you can get feedback on your stroke. You can get feedback on how hard you swing. You can get feedback on the plane of your swing, all of that stuff. I think looking at that information, it says you are very bad. Okay, so it's not very good for me to look at. But it is very useful. You can see the number of different things that people are now incorporating and taking advantage of this wireless technology in these end devices. So that's all I have. Hopefully that was informative. Again, thanks for spending a Saturday afternoon, a wonderful Saturday afternoon listening to this talk, but appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your talk, and as a token of our appreciation, we'd like to thank you.